A society that teaches people to compete with those closest to them also teaches people how to distance themselves from those they perceive as strangers. Welcome back to the Revolution Resolution. I'm Malaika Tubbs. Over the last few episodes, we've been exploring the different ways American patriarchy shapes relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, caregiving, and sibling relationships. And today, I want to widen the lens even further, because the lessons we learn about connection inside our homes do not stay there. They shape how we move through neighborhoods, schools, communities, politics, and ultimately how we learn to see people who are different from us. Because if children are raised to fear vulnerability, compete for worth, and experience closeness through scarcity, it becomes much harder to build a society rooted in trust, interdependence, and collective care. American patriarchy teaches people to think of themselves as separate before it teaches them how to belong to one another. And this begins very early. Many children grow up absorbing the idea that attention is limited, resources are limited, safety is fragile, belonging must be earned, and closeness comes with risk. So children learn to protect themselves emotionally, to compare themselves to others, to fear rejection, to prioritize individual success over collective well-being. And when these lessons become deeply internalized inside the family, they rarely stop there. Because the way people learn to relate to siblings, caregivers, and close relationships often becomes the foundation for how they later understand community itself. If children are taught that difference inside the home creates competition, they may struggle to experience differences outside the home without fear. If they are taught that worth must be earned individually, they may struggle to imagine systems rooted in shared responsibility. If they learn that survival depends on standing apart, they may grow uncomfortable with interdependence altogether. And this has enormous implications for how people respond to diversity. Because prejudice is not only taught through explicit ideology, it is also reinforced through emotional conditioning, through fear of dependence, fear of vulnerability, fear of scarcity, fear of losing status, fear of people whose lives, cultures, languages, beliefs, or experiences feel unfamiliar. This is part of why, on a national level, we struggle with achieving collective care in ways many other societies do not. In many parts of the world, interdependence is treated as a normal part of being human. Children are raised communally. Multiple generations remain deeply interconnected. Neighbors rely on one another. Public life is more relational. Care is understood as shared responsibility. That does not mean those societies are perfect. Every culture carries its own complexities and harms. But it does remind us that the intense individualism many Americans experience is not simply human nature. It is cultural conditioning. And when people are conditioned to believe they must survive alone, they often begin viewing community members less as potential companions in society and more as possible threats to their own stability. You can see this in the xenophobia many people hold, in the fear that comes when they experience difference, their nerves around changing communities, their anger about public support systems, their refusal to share resources or hold any collective responsibility. The system teaches people to believe, if someone else gains safety, belonging, visibility, or support, I might lose something. But that fear depends on a worldview shaped by hierarchy. Because in reality, human beings rely on cooperation, accompaniment, and mutual care to survive. And this is important. Children who experience secure connection, emotional safety, and collective care inside the home are often more likely to carry those instincts outward. Children who learn how to accompany siblings instead of compete with them, who experience support without constant comparison, who are taught that love expands instead of diminishes when shared, whose needs are met when they cry, who are held when they need comfort, who are allowed to be their unique selves at home, often grow into adults who are more capable of curiosity, collaboration, empathy, and community building across difference. Because when people feel secure in their own belonging, difference becomes less threatening. And this is the reason relationships matter politically. The home is not separate from society. It is the first place society is rehearsed. The way we teach children to understand care, belonging, competition, vulnerability, and connection shapes the kinds of communities they later believe are possible and later want to participate in building. So today, I want to leave you with a few questions. What did you learn about people who were different from you? What fears about belonging, scarcity, or safety were modeled around you? Were you taught that community members were potential companions or always potential threats? And what becomes possible when people learn interconnectedness before fear? If this episode resonated with you, maybe you can send it to someone who helped expand your understanding of community, belonging, or connection across difference. Remember this: the more secure people feel in their own humanity, the easier it becomes to recognize the humanity of others. Thank you for joining me in this work to reclaim our humanity together.